Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Sorry that this one is slightly delayed. I was planning on it being released a couple days ago, but hey, it's fine. I wanted to re-record my intro. Other than that, everything should stay the same. So hopefully it should be out today. Hopefully. I hope. Anyhow, right, video. So, well, as the title suggests, mini games. This will just be video 1, where I explain the basics of how you plan a minigame, and then give you the templates that I use for every single one of my minigames. So just the basic folder structure, everything already working. You can technically speaking immediately after that starts, if you have watched my Datapack generics video or just understand the basics of data packing. The video that the video about data packing, I'll link in the video description. Highly recommend you watch that. It's useful. Basically, I'll explain some stuff in there that I don't explain here for the sake of I don't want to explain myself 5 times. Anyhow, right. With that all out of the way. So yeah, first the planning, then the basic folder structure. And it'll be kind of chaotic, but I think you should understand it all. And then in the next video, you should be completely ready to make a fully functional minigame with me. But yeah, that should be everything. So yeah, hope you enjoy. If you do, hit the subscribe button and the like button and other buttons that do stuff. And without further ado, let's get to coding. Well, actually, no, let's get to planning, but let's get to coding. Alright, so, my planning that I've done so far, right? So, just a quick explanation. It's a classic game where you defend a block. The first team to break the other team's block wins, right? Simple. So, moderately based off of Bed Wars and moderately based off of a minigame that I had years ago. I feel old. And moderately based off of another game that I played in a YouTuber's community, streamers community, both, which had some bugs and wasn't a bad version of Minecraft, some issues with it. So I want to take inspiration from all of those and see where I get. Right? Okay. First thing that you should decide, and probably assuming you have an idea for your minigame, you've already decided, to what degree do you want to use the vanilla mechanics? What that means is the vanilla mechanics are things like, the game has a PvP system, it has a food system, health system, you have automatic regeneration, you have weapons that exist in Minecraft, all of that already exists, right? And to what degree do you want to use the vanilla mechanics? And to what degree do you want to code your own things, right? So, if I know you might not have seen, but if you've seen my Monsters Industries, Monster Factory minigame, that is largely vanilla mechanics. So I have, weapons that are from Minecraft. I use Minecraft's health system, food system, movement system, mob AI, all of that's vanilla mechanics, right? But if you have a tower defense game, well, your own types of projectiles, your own types of entities, your own health system for those entities, all of that would be what you make yourself. I advise for a first game to really use the vanilla mechanics a lot. So it's like, games like Sky Wars, Bed Wars, like most of those use a lot of vanilla mechanics, right? Okay. Enough about that. So, next thing is assuming that you've gone in a direction of vanilla mechanics, as we will in this tutorial. But keep inventory, right? So, what happens when you die? So, there are, like, this actually impacts the game a lot, right? Because for I really want to reference a lot of minigames that most people definitely won't know, and that makes it really hard. But yeah, you know, you can have an example of UHC, right? Ultra hardcore, a bunch of people going to a world, you don't regen any health, you have 1 life, right? Simple. So you don't have to keep inventory, so you can take items from each other. Same with Skywars, for instance. But you also have games that really fully have keep inventory, so you try your fullest to get a very overpowered item, and then use that item for the rest of the game, right? But then you have Bed Wars, which is actually a rather interesting take on keep inventory. Because what Bed Wars does is you always have armor, you always have a weapon. Tools, you will all, like, if you buy a tool, you will always keep it, but if you have upgraded the tool, it will degrade over time. And everything, all normal items, they just get deleted, and everything in terms of resources will be given to the enemy player. All in all, that you can tell the levels of depth that is in a game as simple as Bed Wars, right? And that's just for keep inventory. You don't need to go as complicated as Bed Wars has gone. I'm gonna go slightly in that direction, using like, you know, the main weapons and armor. I'm gonna, for instance, give Curse of Vanishing, so when you die, you don't drop it, and when you right, so basically, and then when you die, you just get the items again. Alright, so this is the starting point. So basically what this is the things that most minigames are going to need. You can download this in the description down below. Highly recommend it. It's going to be very useful. Yeah, okay, so you've downloaded it now. In case you hadn't paused here. Okay, so now you've downloaded it. First thing that you want to do is rename this, right? So that is your namespace. You know, in Datapacks it defines you in comparison to other ones, but basically right now this is Core Defend because that's the name of my minigame, right? Core Defend. But if I want Bed Wars, then, you know, I'm gonna make this Bed Wars. All lowercase, no spaces, you know, simple. Okay, so now that you've named this Bed Wars, or whatever the name of your minigame is, you're gonna find that everything is broken, because these refer to, you know, Core Defend, inactive player, right? So this is the name of a file. So you're gonna have to rename every single Core Defend into Bed Wars, or whatever the name of your minigame is. That'll take a while, because there are a lot of files in here. But if you click here and search and replace, then you can go ahead and say Core Defend, right? So now you see every occurrence of Core Defend. And you want to change that to Bed Wars. And then just, you know, click on replace all. I'm not going to, because it's Core Defend, that's already the name of my minigame. But you know, that's how that works. And now you'll have it, you know, with your actual minigame. If you don't have a name for your minigame yet, then I guess you can keep it Core Defend until you come up with a good name. Yeah, okay, so let's start at the beginning. There are some commands that I've added into this folder. So basically what that is things that you might want to run as an admin, right? So the ability to start the game without having to press a button, really useful. The ability to end the game without having to have an ending condition, really useful. Like later on, these are going to be called by itself, you know, like in the thing, you have a condition, but for now, it's fine. Check start, right now it's just gonna say, hey, if the game isn't active, we're gonna start the game. Later on, what this is going to do is say, hey, are there players in all teams? Because, you know, you need to have players. Is there that? Is there that? You know, all the checks that need to pass before you can actually start the game. Yeah, then let's say we start the game. So first of all, what happens is I'm gonna specify in game status or scoreboard that active is 1. So the game is active, we are playing. Then I'm gonna add iteration. All of this is protection against people leaving and rejoining. I'm gonna get back to that in a bit. What you also want in here is teleport people to their spawns, stuff like that. You know, initiation. But because, well, teleportation, well, you don't know where you want to teleport to. Like, I don't know the coordinates. Like, things that might be relevant might not be relevant to you. So this is very generic. End game, kind of the opposite, you know. It just, you know, sets it to not active. It adds an iteration and sets the iteration. Check start already showed that. Okay, so what you then have, right? You know, you have an init. What this function is basically just you want to run this once to initiate all of the scoreboards, right? Normally you would just run these all individually in game. But just to give you a bit of a helping hand, you can just run this manually. All of your scoreboards exist. So you have a, you know, game status. What you store in there is, you know, the status of the game. So basically your information. Like, hey, is the game active? How much health? You know, like, stuff like that. The generic information. These are the data for the individual teams. So the health of the cores would be stored in there. In this specific instance, there won't be too much data stored for the games. But, you know, I've had games where you store a lot. Like you have an economy game, you need to store the money, you know, the upgrades, all of that, you need to store it. And, you know, iteration, once again, leaf protection. Left game, same category, leaf protection. Then these are just the teams. Okay. Then load. What load does, and this is actually really fun, is it runs this function in 1 second of time, right? So at core different timer 1s does. So basically this delays 1 second and then runs the function. You know, simple. What this does is it delays 1 second and then it runs the function. Delays 1 second, runs the function. So it is constantly calling itself with a second of delay. So if you want to check anything every 1 second, you can do that there. You know, obviously you can also make this 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 100 seconds, you know, like, or 10 ticks, so half a second. Like, you can change all that. It's basically just because if you check something every single tick, it's more laggy. Obviously, like, you know, in a minigame, not as much, more for Datapacks. But if you can just check something not as often, you know, if you don't need to check it as often, then that's always better. Then instead of tick, so this is what runs every single tick, right? So, well, first of all, as every single player at their position, right? So just run ask the players a function called player. So then what I do here is say, hey, if the game is active, run this function for players for all of the things that are, you know, only supposed to be checked when the game is active. Because if you're in the lobby, you don't want to check whether or not anyone is using their fireball magic staff, you know? Like, you want that only when it's active. And, you know, you have a tick and a player for that. But, you know, changing teams, you want that when the game is not active, right? And then some generic player things, right? So that's here. First of all, we have new player. So whenever a player does not have the tag old, we basically just say, hey, reset the player. So that basically means, hey, give the player a right team, teleport them to spawn, show them necessary information if that's necessary, and add the tag of old. So what reset does is say, hey, you leave your team, Um, I think that this is not supposed to be here. Oh, right. Yes. Yes, it is. I just didn't realize that was for reset. So all of this is, once again, leaf protection. We'll get back to that. Actually, I think I might have actually already gotten to it right now, right? Yeah. Basically, the reason that that's in there is because if you leave the game and then join back in, then this score will be 1, and you'll run this function. And basically, what do you think is the best thing to do when someone leaves and rejoins the game? Well, what I've gone with, and what I generally go with, is that the player can continue playing, right? That's simple, right? You don't need to do anything for that even. It's that simple. None of those systems are needed if you go with that simple. However, what if the player is in the game ends, player rejoins? Well, they're gonna have all their items still. They're gonna be in the map. You know, like, it's all going to be broken. So that's why I've done the iteration thing, right? So if I look at start game, you know, you have active, right? But I also add 1 to the iteration. So every time the game starts, my iteration is going to be different. This is just, if someone plays an insane amount of games, I don't want to like limit it to the highest score that it can be, you know. What I'm then gonna say is every single player that is currently online is going to know that they're going to play in game 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, right? So also whenever you end the game, you also update the iteration. So that's also useful. So then basically, if you have left the game, if you have okay, right, so it's a bit of complicated things, and basically the nice thing is it works. I spent a lot of time figuring this whole thing out, for the record. But basically, so if your score of game iteration isn't equal to the iteration of the whole game, right? So once the game started or ended, if you weren't online, then you didn't get this set, meaning that you weren't there. Meaning that I want to run reset, and then store that you haven't left the game again. So what that does is you're not on your team, and then you run a function dependent on whether or not the game is playing, right? Because if the game isn't playing, you need to go into the lobby. If the game is playing, then you need to become a spectator, right? And then you're gonna store really quickly, hey, yes, I am from this game. That whole thing. Okay. So what you need to do is, instead of active, well, you know, you would want to become a spectator. So whatever things you want for a spectator, put them in there, including teleport commands. Then if you are inactive, you want to, you know, get teleported back to spawn, right? So where you can select game modes, join teams, all of that. And in any case, you want to clear the player. I'm gonna really quickly add this here. Yeah, that's that. All good. And that's basically everything. I know that the resetting and that you know that the player can leave, that is the most complicated thing out of this all. You don't need to completely understand that, to be honest. You know, it just has, you know, it works. You just need to add those small things, and then it's all good. Yeah, that's basically everything. I hope you've understood. I haven't been the most clear in the world, but I think with some fiddling around, and if you've watched my generic tutorial, then you should kind of be able to understand, right? Yeah, that's basically that for the starting point. All right. All right. So yeah, that was a tutorial. Hope you enjoyed. Um, the next one should be up in the next few days. I've been busy with the commissions, but that should be done at the end of this month. If you watch this in the far future, none of this matters to you. I'll probably have not been uploading in 5 months yet again. But, you know, hey, I have a rhythm, and it's just uploading a lot and then not uploading for months, okay? It's fine. It's fine-ish. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe and do other things that I know of. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video because, well, I don't really, I couldn't find any minigame tutorials out there for the minigame process, and that's really a shame in my opinion, because I love minigames, and I personally just feel like they should be more prevalent. So yeah, it's kind of, you know, I found it kind of odd that no one had a tutorial on it online, so I decided to just make one myself. Yeah, really glad with how it turned out. Really nice, really happy. I can't wait for part 2, as I'm sure can be said for all of you. Anyhow, I'm gonna go finish those commissions I mentioned now, and I'm gonna finish editing this and also do other stuff. I'm not busy. It's fine. It's fine. Anyhow, with that all said and done, hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.